Welcome to Deep News, and this is for October of 2023, and we are about to see Intysam session. Now, Intysam does not know what this Deep News target is, so I'm going to tell you so that you can follow along when she's describing it, but remember, when she describes it, she doesn't know anything about it. So this Deep News session is about Hunter Biden. Now, the first focus is Hunter Biden when he was the most active in communicating with business associates in a manner that was subsequently claimed by others to be influence peddling during the years from January 2009 to January 2017. That was during the Obama administration when Joe Biden was vice president. Now, subject A is Hunter Biden. He's the son of Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is subject B. She goes into subject B at the very end of her session. But anyway, you're about to hear her discuss it, what she got in her session. Subject A is Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden. All right? So here we go. All right, Intysam. So this is your session that you did for Deep News. And you do not know the target, but we'll tell you at the very end of what the target actually is, okay?
Okay.
And so you had some descriptions of the physical location, but let's just dive right into it. You had two subjects you were looking at. One was the one that you focused on the most, and that's subject A. Now I'm looking at your page 7, and you have him sort of in formal attire, so it looks like, suit type stuff, dark blue attire, things like that. And light skin tones with a little pinkish hue. Is that right?
Yeah. Male subject. The hair color, it is darker than the face because his face is also like a lighter color. Like a dark blue type of clothing, medium build. But yeah, he does look to be in formal attire.
All right, moving on into your deep mind probe of this subject, subject A. Page 8, you have has thoughts of the future, so he's apparently focused on the future.
Yep.
Busy mind. What do I have to say more about that? This is your initial deep mind probe into the subject. What did you get?
Yeah, so it's just like you said, thoughts of the future, busy mind. However, something that is quite peculiar is I could sense pockets of emptiness in some spots in his thoughts. So it kind of feels like he's having thoughts, and then there's just a moment of nothingness in his mind. There's some sense of like a mental exhaustion or fatigue that I don't know if I can attribute that to the empty pockets in his mind. There's also some mental fog, something weird going on with his mind.
Yeah. Okay.
But all in all, he has a large sense of responsibility. In this sense, like he has something to do. And there's people counting on him. That's what I could sense from this deep mind probe.
Okay, so let's go on to page 8, where you focus on something called concern 1. And you don't know what concern 1 is.
Nope.
I do, but you don't. And because I wrote the target. So why don't you sort of talk about his thoughts about this thing that you knew only as concern 1?
When I probed into concern 1, what I got was I have subject A, and there's a large number of people. There's a group of subjects that feels to him like that's the concern. That's this concern 1. And subject A has a sense of power or control slipping from him. I could also sense there's anger coming from subject A that's being directed to a few subjects. Yeah, he definitely has resentment towards something, maybe someone, or maybe even a group. And he kind of has an overall sense like whatever is happening, it's not fair to him. It's not fair to this subject A. Yeah. The other thing is this subject seems like a front for power. Because I don't really feel like he's a powerful person, so he's just like a front for power.
That's very interesting. So he's a front for
Yeah.
power. So there is power behind him, and he's sort of like a facade, a front for it, but he doesn't have the power himself.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's move on to page 10, and you're continuing with this concern 1.
Yeah, there was a lot there in terms of his mind and concern 1. But basically, I felt like there was a sharing of a power dynamic between this subject and a group of subjects. It felt like subject A is kind of low on the totem pole of power because they struggle quite a bit to get their way. Yeah, and the subjects, we have these subjects that are suspicious but not fully understanding of how low subject A is on this power totem pole, so as to speak.
You have here all the parties seem disappointed at the end of whatever concern 1 is. So apparently he wasn't satisfying their desires.
Yeah. He sure is pulling strings to get concern 1. And I guess subject A gets concern 1 in the sense of the scale tipping. I had this imagery of their scales. They're slightly tipping in his favor, but if you're thinking of concern 1, is a whole pie, he doesn't get the pie. He's disappointed at the end of it. So
I see.
the scales tip slightly in his favor, but he really doesn't get the whole thing.
Okay. All right, so let's go to page 11, where you're focusing again on subject A, deep mind probe, but this time you're focusing on concern 2.
Yeah.
So this is a different concern 2, and you do not know what that concern is, but I do.
Yep.
So what did you get for that?
Okay, for concern 2, I'm picking up a sense of urgency, an underlying excitement or need to take action. So concern 2 for subject A, it feels like a competition. It feels like they could lose something here. I don't particularly know if this something is very important to them. I kind of had this image of, because remote viewing kind of, the mind, it works in symbolism a lot. So I had this imagery of subject A looking up at something that is stacked up. Yeah, so things are stacked up, but it's metaphorically. Yeah. And he has to do an action, but is nervous about a negative outcome. And he's questioning if this is even worth it for the reward.
Interesting. So he's worried about things turning out badly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go on to page 12, which is a continuation of this probe for concern 2.
So the action subject A has to undertake feels like a competition or a race to get a certain reward. The reward has an element of power in it and has some big stakes. So there are some physical aspects that are tied to subject A's actions, and there's also physical aspects that are tied to this reward as well. I just keep getting this reward. I don't know what it is, but it's clearly I don't know what it is. But there's a feel that there's a reward aspect to this.
This reward, somehow it's tied to it's concern 1. So let's go on to page 13, where you start focusing on subject B.
Okay, so location of subject B, right? I was focusing on the location. It looks like a pretty large structure. I was deducting a White House because that's what it looked like to me. And subject B is inside the structure. I'm getting a male subject, formal black attire, light skin with kind of loose skin on his face. You could see kind of wrinkles. Yeah, anyway. Thinning hair, medium length thinning hair, older subject. His hair is also quite light.
Yeah, and you also had the sense of the time period of Obama. You wrote that down as a deduction.
Yeah.
So you're not describing Obama,
No.
but whatever you're doing with subject B is reminding you of something about Obama.
Yeah.
And the White House.
Yeah, Exactly.
That's what you wrote. Okay, and let's go on to subject B, Deep mind probe on page 14.
All right, subject B. So his mind, if it really felt like this is an ambitious subject, and he's involved in a lot of things, and he's also looking forward to this specific time. Yeah.
And then you probed on the idea of subject B being aware of the content of communication with others regarding concern 1 being done by subject A. So was he aware of what subject A was doing?
That was a big yes.
Yeah, so you said he was aware of that.
Yeah, he was very aware.
And then you probed on the idea, does subject B do anything in his job to address the content of the communication being done by subject A? And what did you get there?
So, is subject B doing anything? He is doing quite a bit to address this. There's a surface level acknowledgement between subject A and B. They kind of play for the same team, but it's just starts and ends there. You know, they're kind of on the same team, but that's it. They don't.
I see.
Does that make sense?
So you have subject B feels like he's watching subject A pulling strings in regard to concern 1.
Yeah.
So he's aware of what's going on.
Yeah, he is.
But it doesn't seem, you don't have any data here that actually says that he does anything specific.
No.
All you do is say that he's really aware of what's going on, and a surface level acknowledgement between A and B. Playing for the same team, but it ends there. So, you don't do anything specific about what he does. So that's still ambiguous, but it's clear that he does know what subject A is doing.
Yeah.
He's aware of what subject A is doing. All right, are you ready to hear what the target is for this?
What is it?
All right. I'll avoid saying any jokes at this point. I'll just tell you what it actually. Subject A is Hunter Biden.
Oh.
Subject B is Joe Biden. So the target is, focus 1 is Hunter Biden when he was the most active in communicating with business associates in a manner that has subsequently been claimed by others to be influence peddling during the years from January 2009 through January 2017. That was during the Obama administration when Joe Biden was vice president at the time. And so Joe Biden was vice president, he's subject B. And the description of Hunter Biden really fits what people what's on the record for what Hunter Biden was doing, which was collecting lots of money from people who thought they were getting, influence in the White House. And it's interesting that you mentioned the Obama thing, because that helps. You really targeted the exact time period that this thing was going on. So you didn't describe Obama, but you clearly said the White House, and you mentioned that Obama time period. So you really got the exact time period and the exact location. And you described physically Biden very well in terms of his hair, his skin color, and everything. So, and that was subject B.
Wow.
So if I was to look back at your session, it's that it looks like Joe Biden was fully aware of what Hunter Biden was doing, and but we have no evidence that Joe Biden did specific things in relation to that. But he was apparently very aware of what Hunter Biden, his son, was doing, and that's what this whole rigmarole, this whole sort of impeachment stuff that's being discussed now in the House with regard to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden during that time period. That's what this is sort of all focused on. So we don't have any evidence that Joe Biden did anything with the information, but we certainly have evidence from the remote viewing perspective that he was aware. You know what really concerns me about this, and you're not the first person to do this target, so they're getting the same results as others. That's what we've got. That's what your target was. I think it's very interesting, and that's our data. And now we move on to the next project.